Imagine a life where criticism doesn't sting, where setbacks don't derail you, and where you're truly free from the constant worry of what will others think. Sounds impossible, right? But what if I told you that this life is within your reach, and the key to it all is something you've probably been told to avoid? Today we're taking a closer look at the misunderstood power of indifference, not as a form of apathy but as a tool for unshakable strength. Stay tuned because this journey could change your life in ways you never thought possible. Let's kick things off with something we all face: the challenge of staying focused and productive in a world full of distractions and drama. Number 1. Unleashing peak performance. Picture your mind as a fortress. Outside, a storm of office politics, demanding bosses, and looming deadlines rages. But inside, calm, focus, unwavering productivity. This is the power of Stoic indifference at work. Think about it. How often has a co-worker's snide comment or a client's unreasonable demand thrown you off your game? It's like trying to navigate a ship through a storm while worrying about every wave. But what if you could steady the ship regardless of the weather? Here's a mind-bending Stoic truth from Epictetus. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. It's not about ignoring problems. It's about choosing your battles wisely. Let me share a quick story. Sarah, a marketing executive, was constantly rattled by her boss's mood swings. Every criticism sent her into a spiral of self-doubt. Then she discovered Stoicism. She started focusing on what she could control: her work quality, her responses, her attitude. The result? Her performance skyrocketed, and ironically, her boss's attitude improved too. But here's the million-dollar question. How can you apply this to your life? Let's try a quick exercise. Think of a recent work situation that stressed you out. Now divide a piece of paper into 2 columns: things I can control and things I can't control. Fill it out. Surprising, isn't it? How many things we stress about that we can't actually control. Remember, indifference isn't about not caring. It's about caring so deeply about what truly matters that the small stuff just fades away. Now I can hear some of you thinking, but what about authenticity? Won't this make me cold and robotic? Oh, my friend, you couldn't be more wrong. In fact, this is your ticket to true authenticity. Stay tuned, because up next, we're diving into how Stoic indifference can help you break free from society's chains and live your most authentic life. But before we move on, I want to hear from you. Have you ever used indifference to navigate a tough situation at work? Drop your story in the comments below. Your experience could be the lifeline someone else needs. Stoic challenge of the week. For the next 5 work days, when something irritating happens, pause for 5 seconds before reacting. Notice how this tiny delay can change your response. Number 2. Revealing true freedom and authenticity. Imagine living in a world where you're free from the constant worry of what will others think. A world where you can pursue your dreams, express your true self, and make decisions based on your values, not societal pressure. Sounds like a fantasy, right? Well, get ready, because Stoic indifference is about to make that your reality. Society often tells us to conform, to follow the crowd. But here's a truth bomb from Marcus Aurelius. The object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane. Powerful stuff, right? Let's talk about Vincent van Gogh. Despite facing rejection and ridicule, he chose to ignore the naysayers and pursue his artistic vision. His indifference to criticism wasn't apathy. It was a shield protecting his creative spirit. And now, his paintings are considered masterpieces. So how can you channel this power? Start by questioning societal norms. Next time you're about to do something just because that's how it's always been done, pause. Ask yourself, is this aligned with my values, my goals, my authentic self? Here's a "what would a Stoic do" scenario. You're offered a high-paying job that doesn't align with your values. The money would solve a lot of problems, but the work leaves you feeling empty. What would a Stoic do? They'd likely prioritize their inner peace and authenticity over external rewards, recognizing that true wealth comes from living in accordance with one's principles. Remember, true freedom and authenticity come from within. As Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever gone against the grain to stay true to yourself? Share your story in the comments. Your experience could inspire someone else to break free from societal chains. Identify one societal expectation that you've been following without question. Spend the week examining whether it truly aligns with your values. Number 3. Mastering rational and objective decision-making. Picture this. You're faced with a crucial decision. Emotions are running high, stakes are even higher. But instead of getting swept up in the chaos, you approach the situation with a calm, clear mind, making a choice based on logic and reason. This, my friends, is the power of Stoic indifference in decision-making. Seneca, another great Stoic, once said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." This isn't just about anger. It's about any emotion that might cloud our judgment. Let's look at a real-world example. Steve Jobs, known for his Stoic-like approach to business, faced a tough decision when he returned to Apple in 1997. The company was on the brink of bankruptcy. Instead of letting panic drive his choices, he calmly assessed the situation and made the bold decision to cut 70% of Apple's products. This rational, emotionally detached decision-making turned the company around. So how can you apply this? Next time you're faced with a big decision, try the 10-10-10 rule. Ask yourself, how will I feel about this decision 10 minutes from now, 10 months from now, 10 years from now? This simple shift in perspective can help you see beyond immediate emotions and make more rational choices. Here's a surprising fact. Studies show that emotions can linger for up to 90 seconds. After that, any remaining emotional response is self-generated. Knowing this, can you see how a brief pause before deciding could dramatically improve your choices? Stoic indifference in decision-making isn't about being cold or unfeeling. It's about creating space between stimulus and response, allowing wisdom to enter. As Viktor Frankl wisely noted, between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. Think about a time when emotions clouded your judgment. How might things have been different if you'd approached the situation with Stoic indifference? Share your reflections in the comments below. The next time you need to make a decision, big or small, consciously apply the 10-10-10 rule. Notice how it affects your choice. Number 4. Building unshakable emotional resilience. Life's a roller coaster, isn't it? Ups, downs, loop-de-loops. It can leave you feeling dizzy and disoriented. But what if I told you there's a way to stay grounded, no matter how wild the ride gets? That's where Stoic indifference comes in, helping you build emotional resilience that's tougher than titanium. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, dropped this wisdom bomb. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Let that sink in for a moment. Your power lies not in controlling external events, but in mastering your response to them. Let's look at a modern example. Imagine you're Elon Musk in 2008. Tesla is bleeding money. SpaceX has had 3 rocket launch failures, and the financial crisis is in full swing. Most people would crumble under that pressure. But Musk, channeling Stoic resilience, famously said, "I don't ever give up. I'd have to be dead or completely incapacitated." That's emotional resilience in action. So how can you cultivate this inner strength? Start with this exercise. Next time you face a challenge, big or small, pause. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, what's within my control here? Focus your energy there. Everything else, let it go. Here's a fascinating tidbit. Neuroscience research shows that labeling our emotions can decrease their intensity. Emotional resilience isn't about being cold or unfeeling. It's about maintaining your inner peace and clarity, regardless of external chaos. As Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Have you ever faced a situation where emotional resilience helped you overcome a major obstacle? Share your story in the comments. Your experience could be the inspiration someone else needs to hear today. Each night this week, reflect on one challenge you faced during the day. Identify what was in your control and what wasn't. How could you respond differently next time? Number 5. Discovering contentment in simplicity. In a world that's constantly telling us we need more, bigger, better to be happy, what if I told you true contentment is actually simpler? Yep, you heard that right. Stoic indifference isn't just about handling life's challenges. It's also the key to finding joy in the simple things. Seneca, another Stoic heavyweight, dropped this truth bomb. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more. That is poor. Mind-blowing, right? Let's break this down. Consider the story of Diogenes, the ancient Greek philosopher who lived in a barrel and owned nothing but a cloak, a stick, and a bread bag. When Alexander the Great, the most powerful man in the world, asked Diogenes if he wanted anything, Diogenes simply replied, "Yes, stand a little out of my sun." Now that's contentment. But let's bring this into the 21st century. Marie Kondo, with her philosophy of keeping only things that spark joy, has tapped into this ancient wisdom. Her approach has helped millions find contentment by simplifying their lives. So, how can you tap into this superpower of simple contentment? Try this. For the next week, at the end of each day, write down 3 things you enjoyed that didn't cost anything. A beautiful sunset, a good conversation, a moment of peace. You might be surprised at how rich your life already is. Here's a startling fact. Studies show that experiences bring more lasting happiness than material possessions. Yet, we often focus on accumulating things rather than collecting moments. How might this insight change your approach to seeking happiness? Number 6. Mastering the art of constructive criticism. We've all been there. That moment when criticism hits and it feels like a punch to the gut. But what if I told you there's a way to take feedback, even harsh criticism, and use it to fuel your growth? That's the power of Stoic indifference in action. Marcus Aurelius, in his infinite wisdom, wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." This isn't about ignoring criticism. It's about changing how we perceive and respond to it. Let's look at a modern example. J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter was rejected by 12 different publishers before it was accepted. Imagine if she had let that criticism defeat her. Instead, she persevered, using each rejection as fuel to improve her work. The result? A literary phenomenon that has touched millions of lives. So how can you apply this Stoic principle to your own life? Here's a practical exercise. The next time you receive criticism, pause before reacting. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I use this to improve? This simple shift can transform criticism from a threat to an opportunity for growth. Here's a fascinating fact. Studies show that teams that receive more criticism actually perform better in the long run than teams that receive predominantly positive feedback. Why? Because constructive criticism drives improvement. Stoic indifference to criticism isn't about having a thick skin. It's about having a clear perspective. Can you recall a time when criticism initially stung, but ultimately led to significant improvement? Share your story in the comments. Your experience could be the inspiration someone else needs to hear today. The next time you receive criticism, wait 24 hours before responding. Use this time to reflect on what you can learn from the feedback rather than reacting emotionally. Number 7. Cultivating unshakable inner peace in a chaotic world. In today's fast-paced, always-on world, inner peace can seem like an elusive dream. But what if I told you that Stoic indifference holds the key to finding calm amidst the chaos? Seneca wisely noted, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." This powerful insight is at the heart of cultivating inner peace through Stoic indifference. Consider the story of Nelson Mandela. During his 27 years in prison, he could have been consumed by anger and resentment. Instead, he cultivated inner peace and emerged as a beacon of reconciliation and hope. In his words, "I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it." So how can you cultivate this inner peace? Try this. For the next week, whenever you feel anxious or stressed, pause and ask yourself, is this within my control? If not, practice letting it go. Focus instead on your response to the situation. That's always within your control. Here's a surprising statistic. According to the National Science Foundation, the average person has between 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts per day, and 80% of those thoughts are negative. Imagine the peace you could find by learning to let go of what you can't control. Stoic indifference isn't about not caring. It's about caring deeply about the right things, the things you can actually influence. What's one thing you often worry about that's actually outside your control? Share in the comments. Recognizing these areas is the first step towards greater inner peace. Start each day this week with a brief meditation. Focus on your breath and remind yourself, I cannot control external events, but I can control my response to them. Number 8. Embracing change with Stoic resilience. Change is the only constant in life, yet it's often what we resist the most. But what if I told you that Stoic indifference could transform your relationship with change, turning it from a source of anxiety into a catalyst for growth? Heraclitus, a philosopher who influenced Stoic thought, said, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man." This profound insight reminds us that change is not just inevitable, but essential for our growth. Consider the story of Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft. When he took over in 2014, the company was struggling to adapt to the mobile and cloud computing era. Instead of resisting change, Nadella embraced it, shifting Microsoft's focus and culture. The result? Microsoft's stock price tripled, and the company regained its position as a tech leader. So how can you cultivate this Stoic approach to change? Try this exercise. Think of a recent change in your life that you initially resisted. Now, list 3 positive outcomes or lessons from that change. You might be surprised at what you discover. Here's a fascinating fact. Studies show that people who view stress as helpful rather than harmful have better health outcomes, lower mortality rates, and higher productivity. It's not the change itself, but our perception of it that determines its impact on us. Stoic indifference to change isn't about being passive. It's about accepting what we can't control and focusing our energy on our response. What's a change you're currently facing that you could reframe as an opportunity? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective might help someone else see change in a new light. Each day this week, intentionally do one small thing differently. Notice your reaction to this minor change and practice embracing it with curiosity rather than resistance. Number 9. Finding freedom in letting go. In a world that constantly tells us to accumulate more possessions, more achievements, more control, what if true freedom comes from letting go? This is where Stoic indifference truly shines, offering a path to liberation through detachment. Epictetus, who was born a slave and became one of the greatest Stoic teachers, said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." This powerful statement encapsulates the Stoic approach to attachment and possession. Here's an exercise. Make a list of things you're holding on to: physical items, grudges, outdated beliefs. For each one, ask yourself, is this serving my growth and happiness? If not, practice letting it go. What's something you've let go of that actually made you feel freer or happier? Share your story in the comments. Choose one thing each day this week to let go of. A physical item, a worry, a grudge. Notice how it feels to release these burdens. Number 10. Cultivating authentic relationships through Stoic wisdom. In our hyper-connected world, genuine connections can feel rare. But what if I told you that Stoic indifference could be the key to fostering deeper, more authentic relationships? Let's explore how. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." This powerful advice encapsulates the Stoic approach to relationships, understanding others while holding ourselves to high standards. Try this. Next time you're in a disagreement, pause before reacting. Ask yourself, what's really important here? The issue at hand or the relationship itself? This simple shift can transform how you interact with others. Here's an interesting fact. Studies show that the quality of our relationships is the single biggest predictor of our happiness. Yet, how often do we let petty disagreements or ego get in the way of these vital connections? Stoic indifference in relationships isn't about being aloof. It's about not letting external factors or fleeting emotions damage our connections. Can you think of a time when practicing emotional control improved a relationship? Share your story in the comments. Your experience could help someone else navigate a difficult relationship. In your interactions this week, practice active listening. Focus entirely on understanding the other person rather than preparing your response. Notice how this changes your conversations. Number 11. Embracing mortality for a more meaningful life. Now we're about to tackle a topic that many find uncomfortable, but Stoics viewed as essential: our mortality. What if I told you that embracing the fact of our limited time could actually be the key to living a more vibrant, meaningful life? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now, Let that determine what you do and say and think. This isn't meant to be morbid, but to inspire us to make the most of our time. Consider Steve Jobs' famous Stanford commencement speech, where he said, "Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life." This Stoic-like approach led him to create products that changed the world. So how can we apply this perspective? Try this. Write your own eulogy. What would you want people to say about your life? Now ask yourself, are you living in a way that aligns with that vision? Here's a thought-provoking fact. Studies show that regular contemplation of mortality can lead to decreased anxiety and increased appreciation for life. It's not about being morbid, but about gaining perspective. Stoic acceptance of mortality isn't about giving up. It's about living with urgency and purpose. As Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." How has confronting your own mortality changed your perspective on life? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your insight could be profound for someone else. Each morning this week, remind yourself that this day could be your last. Notice how this affects your choices and interactions throughout the day. Number 12. Cultivating resilience in the face of adversity. Life throws curveballs. It's not a matter of if, but when. So what if I told you that Stoic indifference could be your secret weapon for bouncing back stronger from any setback? Let's look at a modern example. Oprah Winfrey faced numerous adversities: poverty, abuse, discrimination. Yet she used these challenges as fuel for growth, embodying the Stoic principle of turning obstacles into opportunities. So how can you build this resilience? Try this exercise. Think of a recent setback. Now, list 3 potential opportunities this setback might create. It might be hard at first, but this obstacle is the way thinking is at the core of Stoic resilience. Here's an intriguing fact. Psychologists have identified a phenomenon called post-traumatic growth, where people report positive changes following severe adversities. It's not that suffering is good, but that we have the capacity to grow through it. Stoic resilience isn't about being tough or unemotional. It's about maintaining perspective and finding opportunity in adversity. As Marcus Aurelius said, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Can you recall a time when a setback ultimately led to growth or opportunity? Share your story in the comments. Your resilience could inspire others facing challenges. Each time you face a challenge this week, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Or, how can I use this as an opportunity? Notice how this shifts your perspective on difficulties. Number 13. Harnessing the power of rational thinking. In a world often driven by emotions and knee-jerk reactions, what if I told you that cultivating rational thinking could be your greatest asset? This is where Stoic indifference truly shines, offering a path to clarity and wisdom in decision-making. Consider the example of Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's right-hand man. Known for his lattice work of mental models, Munger's approach to decision-making is deeply Stoic. He emphasizes rational thinking over emotional reactions, leading to decades of successful investments. So how can you apply this Stoic principle to your life? Here's an exercise. The next time you face a decision, big or small, write down your emotional response. Then write down your rational response. Compare the two. Which one leads to better long-term outcomes? Here's a fascinating fact. Neuroscientists have found that practicing rational thinking can actually strengthen the neural pathways in our prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for logical reasoning. In essence, the more you practice, the better you get. Stoic rational thinking isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about not letting emotions cloud our judgment. Can you think of a time when rational thinking helped you make a better decision? Share your experience in the comments. Your insight could be valuable for someone facing a tough choice. Each day this week, identify one decision you made based on emotion rather than reason. Reflect on how you could approach similar situations more rationally in the future. And there you have it, folks. 13 powerful Stoic principles that can transform your life. From building resilience and cultivating contentment to embracing change and thinking rationally, these ancient wisdom nuggets are more relevant today than ever. Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions or being indifferent to life. It's about focusing our energy on what we can control, finding peace in acceptance, and continuously striving to be our best selves. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these Stoic principles resonated with you the most? How do you plan to incorporate them into your daily life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found value in this video, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who could benefit from a little Stoic wisdom in their life. Until next time, stay curious, stay resilient, and keep growing. Remember, your best life is waiting for you, not in some distant future, but right here, right now. Embrace it with Stoic indifference and watch how your world transforms.